Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're taking the 6-volt Ford Mustang Ride-On and giving it a serious upgrade. We're ditching the slow 6-volt battery and swapping in a 20-volt DeWalt power tool battery for way more speed and fun. I'll show you all the parts I use, walk you through how I wired it up, and give you tips to make it clean, safe, and awesome. So let's get started. Here's everything I'm using for this upgrade. So we have here is the power wheel battery adapter converter kit. It comes with the battery adapter, a low voltage protection board, a speed controller, and a voltage display. Now let's talk about this little guy right here, the DC low voltage protection board. Now its job is to protect your battery from over discharging. Basically, if the voltage drops too low, it automatically cuts off power to prevent damage to your battery or electronics. It's a great way to make sure your 20-volt battery doesn't get drained too far and stays in good shape for the long run. I also picked up a separate battery adapter since I wanted to relocate the power switch to the dashboard of the car. I wasn't a fan of the one that came with the kit, so we're going to be upgrading that too. And to top it off, I added a lighted on and off rocker switch so it lights up when the power is on. Nothing too crazy, just enough to make it clean and functional. You'll also need a few extra supplies to wire it all up. Some 12 gauge and 22 gauge electrical wire, quick disconnect electrical terminals, and heat shrink tubing to keep everything safe and tidy. And don't worry, I've listed all the parts and links in the video description below so you can check them out if you want to try this yourself. Now here I want to quickly show you the connection diagram for everything just to give you a better idea of how all the components are wired together. This includes a power converter, low voltage protection board, speed controller, the voltage display, and the on and off switch and the motor, all tied in and routed to their spots. As you can see, it's a pretty simple setup once you break it down, nothing too crazy. Feel free to pause here if you want to take a closer look. Alright, let's talk about taking the car apart. First up, the windshield. Now that came out pretty easy. It's just held in by a few plastic tabs so you can pop it off with a gentle pull. No tools needed. Next, the dashboard. It's held in place with 2 screws, one on each end, and the front edge sits in a slotted groove to keep things snug. Now once the screws are out, it lifts right out, but in order to get the dash out though, you'll need to remove the steering wheel first, and that's held on by one long screw and a nut on the other side, so be careful. That little nut can fall out and disappear fast. When you're pulling things apart, take it slow. There are wires behind the dash and you don't want to accidentally yank anything loose. The good news is most of the wires are connected with quick disconnect terminals, so they're easy to separate once you get a look inside. The dashboard, it actually comes in 2 pieces and it's held together by 10 screws. Once you've got those out, the whole assembly comes apart pretty easily, as you can see here. In this picture, I'm just doing a rough layout, trying to figure out how I want everything to look once it's finished. I know I wanted to put the 20-volt battery to where the original battery was, but before I could do that, I had to put a 3/4 inch plywood that is held by 4 screws on each side from the bottom of the car. I needed to do this so that I could have something to mount the battery power adapter. Just getting a feel for how all the components will fit under the seat and making sure that I've got enough space to keep things clean and organized. So here's the layout I came up with. I've got the power adapter over here. Right next to that is the speed controller, and just underneath it is the low voltage protection board. I'm laying everything out now to make sure it all fits neatly under the seat before I start wiring things up. For the power adapter switch and the speed controller turn knob, I'll be relocating those to the dashboard. That means we'll need to extend the wires, splice them together, and install everything in the new location. So I decided to install the speed controller knob and the digital voltage display right where the 2 existing vents are on the dashboard. As you can see, I've already cut the holes for them. Before cutting, I made sure both components would fit properly in those spots, and I also checked the back side to make sure there was nothing in the way that could interfere with the installation. On the left side of the dashboard, I decided to install the power on and off switch. As you can see, I've already got it mounted, and honestly it turned out pretty nice. Same thing here, make sure to check the back before cutting to be sure there's nothing in the way that could interfere with the switch or wiring. Now in this image, I just wanted to show you that I've numbered the wires on the speed controller switch. That way when I splice them back together later, I know exactly which wire goes where. It just makes the reassembly a whole lot easier, and it helps avoid any mix-up. As you can see here on the left, I've already extended the wires for the speed controller knob and spliced them together. I also did the same for the voltage display wires, and then bundled the 2 sets together using some automotive wire harness tape. Keeps everything neat and tidy. And then over on the right side, I did the same thing for the rocker on and off switch. Everything extended, spliced, and wrapped up clean. Looking at the back side of the dashboard, you can see I've mounted the voltage display and the speed controller knob. Both are held in place with the hot glue gun. It's simple and it gets the job done. On the right side, here's a rocker on and off switch that's also secured in place with the hot glue gun. It's quick, easy, and it holds up well for this kind of setup. Here's another picture showing the whole setup of the back of the dashboard so far. Everything mounted and starting to really come together. Now here's a look at the front of the dashboard with everything mounted. The on and off rocker switch on the left, the speed controller knob in the middle, and the digital voltage display on the right. I think it turned out pretty clean and factory looking. Not bad for a DIY job, right? Okay guys, everything's wired up and put back together. Now it's time for the fun part. So let's turn the power on and see if everything works the way it should. I'm just double checking everything to make sure all the connections are solid, nothing loose, and everything looks good to go. Bye! Thank you for watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. See you on the next video.